Welcome to this year's train show haul video. As you can imagine, since I was there the entire weekend, I obviously saw a lot that I liked. There were so many things at the train show that caught my eye. Obviously, I didn't buy all of them, but I did buy quite a lot of things that I have been looking for a while, and that I think I will have some fun with. So let's start off actually with the O-scale items. Specifically the buildings. That's right, I got some new buildings for O-scale, something I haven't really done ever. Now, these buildings came from Trains and Toy Soldiers. It was near their booth. And I got two buildings, the Lionel gasoline storage tank, labeled Linex, and a church. I just figured I've thought about having a church on my layout for a while. I just think it's a neat thing to have. And I believe the church is a kit, but it's pretty well made. The cross was initially not on the top. I had to glue it back on, but we got it on there with ease. It's fine now, and it looks great. Both buildings look great. I got both of them together for only $10, which for O-scale buildings, even buildings like these, is really good. But these aren't the only O-scale structures I got. I also got a signal bridge from Bachmann's Plasticville line. I've never gotten anything from Plasticville before, so this was an interesting experience. But I do really like it. I think it's a neat signal bridge. It looks great on the layout. I got the signal bridge actually alongside some 30-inch fast track, alongside buildings. I figured that track is something that would be a good idea for me to have. Pretty much all of my Lionel fast track I've had for many, many years, and so some of it has become very uneven and worn and just not very good to run on. So yeah, I think some new Lionel fast track was definitely a good idea. So I got the 30-inch fast track, I got two pieces of that, plus the signal bridge, all from Leon. He's a vendor that I've bought from before at previous train shows. So it was neat to see him again and do some business. That was all great. And the fast track works pretty well, it looks good, and obviously, as I thought, it was a lot smoother. So that's all great. It's great to see the O-scale layout actually looking more like a town now. I'm really liking how far that's come, and how it looks. So that's all great, but I also got a little bit more O-scale rolling stock. There is a evergreen container that I bought for $10. I believe it was made by K-Line. And it's got a fair amount of detail on it, including opening doors, which is a very nice feature on containers. I always like seeing that on models. And alongside the evergreen container, I have some flat cars I bought to transport it on. One is Santa Fe, the other is New York Central. Each one cost only $10, which I believe is really good for some O-scale rolling stock. It works fairly well. I think the wheels are a bit worn, but that's pretty much the worst part about it. And I don't know for sure what manufacturer made these flat cars, but if I had to make an educated guess, I'm pretty sure it's Weaver Models. I have a few freight cars from Weaver already, and just the way that these cars are detailed, the way they feel, it makes me think of Weaver more than anything else. So I believe these cars are by Weaver. But they're neat cars, and they look good on my freight trains. I was really hoping to get more intermodal stuff for the O-scale layout. I didn't get as much as I hoped, but I mean, it's fine. I still got a fair amount, and I should be content with that, and it does look great. So that's the O-scale stuff. I really like how that's been coming along. And now let's move over to the HO scale items, starting off with actually some gifts that I got from some of the people who I interacted with at the train show. There was one guy who helped us out with the LARHS layout. His name is Max, and he gave me some HO scale cork road bed. He had his own table where he was selling some HO trains, and he knew I was looking for road bed. And on the final day, the road bed still hadn't been sold, so he just gave it to me. So I think I'll be able to make some good use out of that. I have been looking for a road bed for quite a long time, actually, so that's a great addition. Thank you so much, Max, for that. And I also got some gifts from Owen, known as Owen the Train Man on social media. He and I ran trains together for a lot of the train show, and he gave me some HO scale car track decals. Now, if you don't know what car track is, basically it's like a railroad version of a barcode that was on freight cars in the 60s and 70s and can still be found from time to time. Now, there's a whole documentary about car track if you want to check that out, but this is actually my first ever set of decals that I've gotten, so that's very neat to have, and I think I will enjoy those. Another very neat gift I got was this wilderness diorama scene, also from Owen the Train Man. He had a little scenery clinic thing going on at the show. So he gave me this when it was done with, so now I have it as part of my little forest scene on my layout, along with some of my trees. So I'm trying to make it look better so that it blends in well. Still a work in progress. I'm definitely going to improve on mine. But yeah, thanks so much, Owen, for this. It looks great, especially on the layout. So massive thank you, Owen, for both of those gifts. I am really going to enjoy having these on the layout. And now let's get into my purchases that I got in HO scale, starting off with a big one, a Southern Pacific autorack. Now, this isn't just any autorack, but my first ever HO scale autorack. Also, this is the autorack that had the car stuck to it in the train show video. We were having some fun, and yeah, I had just bought that autorack at that point, so that was fun. But anyway, this is my first HO scale autorack. I had never had one before this, and I was looking for some new ones at this train show. So it's a very neat piece to have. I know I should have been expecting this, but the thing is absolutely massive, and I am surprised at how tall it is. It's way taller than even my diesel locomotives, and I'm awestruck at that. But miraculously, it still makes it around my curves, at least most of them, if not all of them, and into the tunnels. So that is very fortunate. I am very glad about that. So yeah, the auto rack does work on my layout, and it's an absolute stunner. Definitely a very interesting piece. And I'm having fun with it. It's huge. It's not like anything I had before. Besides maybe my Amtrak Superliners, but I mean, this might be even longer than those. I don't know. Ain't no way. The auto rack is longer than the Superliner. It has officially claimed its title as the longest freight car on my HO scale layout. And I could see how, because this thing is like, it's longer than quite a few of my buildings. It's crazy. So yeah, as you can tell, I've really enjoyed having this thing. It's blowing my mind right here. And alongside the auto rack, I also got another item from the same vendor, a locomotive this time, a CSX-9 in the YN3 paint scheme, and this locomotive is made by Athearn. I actually have a second Athearn CSX-9, but it's in YN2. And while I do prefer the YN2 paint scheme, I still really like YN3, and I figured I have some CSX engines, and I wanted to have another YN3 engine to go with the one I already had, so we can have a bit of like uniformity. And they do look really nice together. I was happy to see that. And so now that I have 3 CSX locomotives, I can recreate that one train from that one movie, which I am very, very happy about. That's very neat. So yeah, that's going to be fun. But while 9051, the CSX-9 does look really neat, in terms of running, that's a long story. I'll come back to that one. But first, let me introduce another diesel locomotive that I got from this train show. Another Dash 9, a Norfolk Southern Dash 9 to be specific. Now, even more than CSX, I've been looking for a Norfolk Southern locomotive for a very long time. The only NS engine I had before this was the Interstate Heritage Unit from Bachmann. So it's great to have another Norfolk Southern locomotive to go with it. I really enjoy that black horsehead paint scheme. It's a stunner. And I know that Norfolk Southern has made some not good decisions, but I still like the railroad. I still like practically every American Class 1. So, yeah, it's very neat to have this engine. But unfortunately, just like the CSX-9, this locomotive had some operational problems. part of which were my fault, and that leads me to the final part of this train haul, some KD couplers. Now, another thing that I have been looking for at this train show were some couplers, because quite a few of my freight cars were needing new couplers, and I figured it's probably a good idea to buy some new couplers. So I got 2 packs of KDs. I had never had a pack of KDs before, so it's a new experience for me. Unfortunately, that meant that I didn't really know how to put them together. I was hoping that they would have supplied like screws or something in the pack. I didn't even know that I would need screws at the time. So I had to use like one of my leftover screws while I was trying to put the KDs on. And at this point, I should mention how the NS-9, it only cost $99, which for an HO scale diesel locomotive is really good. But the thing is, it was missing couplers, and I knew that going in. It said so on the box. But I figured, I could just use the KDs that I bought to put onto the -9. But it wasn't that easy, because while I was trying to scramble the couplers onto the -9, it fell off the table, and the shell split from the chassis. That was depressing. That was sad. I didn't like that at all, as you could guess. But miraculously, thank God Almighty, this locomotive still runs, and it actually has DCC, because it was programmed to 03 and not 00 as I thought it would be. So that's neat how it has DCC. I do like that. But the good news is it runs, but the bad news is, well, see for yourself. I got the NS-9 back up and running, couplers and all. The bad news is it derails on almost any curve. Yep, right here. It derails on almost any curve, and my CSX-9 had a similar problem. I don't know if this is a thing with Athearn engines, because I think my first CSX-9 had a similar problem with this too, where it liked to jump the tracks. I looked under the chassis, did some investigating, and I think there's something going on with the trucks that's not making them turn like they're supposed to. Not exactly sure how to fix that, but I'm sure there's some way to do it. So, yes, this locomotive can run. Thank God for that. I am very relieved about that after all of this ordeal. But, yeah, it's not done yet. Of course not. But, you know what? It's running. It's fine. We'll get it eventually. Yep, so it's all good. So yeah, that's not great. Both of my new -9s, while they do run, I should have mentioned that the CSX-9 also runs, though it isn't exactly the happiest of runners either. Just to prove my point here, here's the CSX-9 9051. It's not powered, I'm just pushing it along. And yep, it's jumping the tracks too, so I don't know if this is a thing that normally happens with these kinds of models. I don't know if it's just something with my layout and I need to fix my curves, but it's not just like a certain curve. Like, it happens almost everywhere. Again, maybe it's just my layout, maybe it's the engines, maybe it's both, I don't know. So let me know if there's a solution to this. If you have any ideas, I appreciate it, and yeah, let's keep moving forward. So while both of these engines do run, they do have some problems getting around the layout, primarily around curves. So I'll have to try to fix that some way. Maybe I can send it to Randy or someone. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's fine. And it usually happens with train shows anyway. I should have expected it at this point. But hey, I mean, these locomotives do still look amazing. And I got the couplers on the NS-9 all right, so now I can run it, well, not run it, but like at least have it with other engines and cars, so I can have it on a train, even if it is at a standstill, at least it can still look nice. So there's all that, which is neat. And yeah, and I should also probably follow up with the KDs. Because of the whole fiasco with the NS-9, initially I did not like KDs very much, but like I said, one of the main reasons I got KDs was to put them onto some of my freight cars, which were in desperate need of new couplers. Their original couplers had either broke or were completely missing. So I put it on several of my freight cars, and I have to say I've quite warmed up to Katie's since, and I gotta say I actually kind of like them. Because now, thanks to Katie's, some of my freight cars have gone from being almost completely unusable to back into general service just like that. And yeah, that's a great thing to see. And the couplers are really good. Like, they don't always disconnect. They seem nice and firm and well detailed and all that. So it might have had some initial struggles, but I have grown to quite like Katie's, and I think they're actually all right. So even though this train show, and especially the train show hall, had its ups and downs, I would still say that overall it was fairly successful. I mean, I'm really enjoying the new locomotives. Even though we have some operational flaws to work out, they do look great, especially with the new couplers installed. Even though we had some issues with that, hey, now we got it back. Now it's actually looking good. And some of my freight cars are looking great with the Katie's too, including the new autorack. It's also stunning. So yeah, those are all doing well. And of course, the engines that I took to the train show made it back home safely, so very grateful for that. So overall, I'd say, I mean, nothing's perfect in this world. So, I mean, had some issues, but overall I'd say that it was a mostly successful train show haul. And I mean, these train show hauls always have some little kink with them, don't they? So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy. And see you in another video with these new locomotives.